Two generations. One grew up when silence meant peace. The other grew up when silence meant no Wi Fi. This isn't just a comparison, it's a cultural collision. Gen X and Gen Z. Gen X had unlocked childhoods. No tracking apps, no share location. They disappeared at 4 p.m. on a bicycle and reappeared only when the streetlights came on. They learned risk by scraping their knees. They learned consequences without searching them. There were no YouTube tutorials. If something broke, you opened it. If something hurt, you buried it. Resilience wasn't motivational content, it was survival. And then comes Gen Z, born into algorithms, raised by recommendations. They didn't search the world searched them. Ads knew their desires before they did. Trends found them faster than thoughts. They learned coding before cursive. They network before they walk. They don't just ask, "Who am I?" They ask, "How do I optimize who I am?" Gen X had privacy, Gen Z has presence. Gen X grew up believing you get a job, you stay, you climb, you retire. Loyalty meant security, a steady paycheck meant dignity. They built careers brick by brick. Stability was the dream. Gen Z builds brands instead of resumes. Why wait 20 years for promotion when you can launch something in 20 days? They don't fear quitting, they fear stagnation. Gen X says, be grateful. Gen Z says, be valuable. One trusts stability, the other worships leverage. Gen X endured silently. Rising divorce rates, economic crashes, no therapy culture, no safe spaces. Pain was swallowed, tears were private, strength meant silence. But silence also meant suppression. Gen Z speaks about anxiety, about burnout, about trauma. They normalize therapy, they demand boundaries, they say, I matter. Gen X calls it oversensitive, Gen Z calls it self awareness. So, who is stronger, the one who endured quietly or the one who refuses to endure silently? Gen X remembers dial up internet. They remember waiting. Patience was installed in their operating system. They adapted to technology. Gen Z doesn't adapt to technology, they are technology. Touch screens before textbooks, AI before adulthood. They don't learn digital language, they speak it. But here's the tension: Gen X can disconnect, Gen Z struggles to. One knows life before the screen, the other knows life through the screen. Gen X grew up in defined boxes: career paths, gender roles, social roles. Life was linear. Gen Z questions everything. Identity is fluid, career is non-linear, geography doesn't define opportunity anymore. Gen X built the structure, Gen Z redesigns the blueprint. Gen X says we survived without shortcuts, Gen Z says we refuse to survive without purpose. Gen X built the world as it stands, Gen Z is rewriting it in real time. One mastered endurance, the other masters adaptation. Neither is weak, both are extreme. Gen X is the bridge, Gen Z is the rocket. And maybe the future belongs to those who borrow resilience from Gen X and combine it with the fearless innovation of Gen Z. Because toughness without evolution becomes rigidity, and innovation without resilience becomes fragility. The real power isn't Gen X versus Gen Z, it's what happens when analog wisdom meets digital audacity.